Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so super excited to announce we are doing the interviews. I have the first one recorded. I'm sharing it with you here now. So excited to do this. We've got a lot of great resellers kicking butt as a reseller on different platforms, whether they're Lives, eBay, Poshmark, you name it. People are doing some really great things as resellers, and we're going to be doing interviews with these folks. Just talking about their experience, how they got started, questions about their reselling business and opportunity. And this is Rachel. She goes by I think it's Hey Rachie or Rachie on YouTube. I will link her information down below. Rachel, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with us. Such great information from her. You guys, the videos will typically be about an hour long for each of these interviews. So this was roughly about an hour. Grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, or whatever your favorite drink is. Maybe a little snack to go with it while you're doing your listings. Enjoy this amazing interview. And Rachel, thank you again so much for your precious time sharing your experience as a reseller. Guys, let's dive in. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Busy, but
Yeah,
good.
same.
Yeah, it's this last year has been really, really crazy as far as reselling goes. Not only were sales slower for me, but sourcing has just been crazy, which is one thing we'll talk about today. But first of all, let me introduce you. I am so excited to do these interviews. There are so many resellers doing some kick butt stuff. And I thought, man, I just want to get these people on video and find out what they're doing. And hopefully we can all learn something from each other. So thank you so, so much for being here. If you guys don't know, this is Rachel. Now tell us how long you've been reselling.
So I've been reselling. My gosh, I started my eBay account technically in 2000, so 24 years. I've been reselling for profit at least 13, 14 years, I would say. Like actually working it as a business. And I finally last year, a little less than a year ago now, left my corporate job and decided to make this my full-time source of income.
So did you start out like really small, or when you went part-time, did you kind of like you listed things from your closet, or you went to the thrift store, bought a couple things, made sure that paid for itself? Did you go into debt to doing it? Do you pay cash and go? You know what I'm saying? How did you start out? Because there's a lot of people wondering that.
Yeah, so I originally, yeah, I kind of just started with stuff around my house. I was working on losing weight and I needed like new clothes, but I didn't want to buy like new clothes because, when you're losing weight, you're hopefully continuing to go down in size, right? And so I went to locally was the Salvation Army and I was looking for stuff for myself. And also I was selling off things in my own closet that were now too big for me. And that's when I realized, wow, if people are going to buy my stuff in my size, my old size, then they will buy anybody's stuff in any size. And as I was at Salvation Army looking for my own new clothes, I realized, wow, people donate like expensive things that I saw the profit to be made there. So that's really just how it started. I didn't go into debt to do it. I mean, my budget back then was very small. I'm talking like I'm going to spend $20 today on items that are not for myself that I can sell. Or I can spend, it was very, very small amounts. Or I can't buy anything else until I sell off this stuff and I have a few dollars in profit that I can put into something else. So it definitely started out small, that kind of scale. And then I realized that my local Salvation Armies had a dollar day. It was they had a 5 for $5 sale on Fridays. You had to buy in multiples of five, but it was like how they cleared out their oldest color tag of the week, basically. And so I started making a point to go on Fridays so that I could get things for a dollar, and that's how I was able to like expand a little bit and have more volume to say. Was just getting stuff, I mean, in my opinion, decent stuff, pretty inexpensively. Now, granted, there was a lot of trial and error that went into that. I didn't know clothing brands. I didn't know fashion. I didn't know trends. I just knew I mean, there were some, like I knew brands that I knew because I liked them, and that's kind of where I started. And then I had to expand on that, which took a very, very long time. So I don't want to, I don't want to make it seem like it was just all easy peasy. And then all of a sudden I was this big time reseller. It wasn't that. It was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of redonating things. It was a lot of inventory sitting around in cracks and crevices. I was living in a one bedroom apartment when I started this. So it was not like rainbows and butterflies, but it
Would you
gave me
agree that
the
there's definitely,
foundation.
yeah, would you agree
Yeah.
that there's definitely a misconception with brands when people start out reselling? There's a misconception that anything sells because in real life, people don't care about brands when they're buying something. They care that it fits and it's their size and it's cute. But when reselling, it's a completely different dynamic. You are looking at brands and style.
I I do not thrift or purchase anything based on style. I mean, it's brand and style, but it's brand first, 100%. Like I don't pick up things just because they're cute. I agree with you. People do that in retail stores, boutiques, and things like that. But no, I won't do that when I'm thrifting or when I'm sourcing.
Yeah.
Brand absolutely 100% matters. And especially if you're on a site like Poshmark, where, there's no such thing as returns. Customers can't return for fit. If I'm going to go on Poshmark and buy something, I need to know it's going to fit me. And I know it fits me because it's a brand I wear all the time. It's a brand I buy all the time. And I know how that runs. So when you're taking something based on style, and there are platforms for that, probably Depop, or like, I'm sure there is a place for that. It's just when you're first getting started, that's a big risk to take. That's a big experiment that, in my opinion, unless you really, 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 really know what you're doing with that, it's hard to get started that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think though, what I was kind of trying to say in that aspect too is when you're starting out, until you've learned some things, which everybody has to go through that season. I don't care how well you know fashion. When you're reselling, there is a learning curve, and you have to give yourself grace. I mean, I'm serious, like a couple of years grace to
Yeah.
learn, to grow, to make mistakes, and be okay that you made a mistake because it's not just like 2 weeks, 2 months. Oh my gosh, I've got it down. I know people who've been reselling for 10, 20 years and they're still learning because it changes too. So I
You
so agree
always are
with you.
learning.
And brands change,
Hmm.
popularity changes. We've seen that with Poshmark, Whatnot, Lives. I mean, my goodness, what sold well even a year ago, 6 months ago, is not selling well now.
Yep.
So it's just I've been reselling. It'll be 3 years this June, and even just in the last 6 months, I have changed so much in what I'm doing. So tell us, in this last year compared to even a few years ago, how has your reselling changed? Whether it's lives, how you source. I mean, how much have you changed? Even just the last 6 months for you, what has changed?
Wow. Okay. So I left my corporate job in April of 2023. So really this past year has been like the biggest change of them all for me. The biggest change I would say is how I source though, and that's not necessarily because of the business or the industry, but it's because of my personal circumstance. Up until last year, I was primarily a thrifter, and I love thrifting. I love the thrill of the find. I love the hunt. And I do think that when you can hand select your merchandise, when you do have the knowledge built up, you get a chance of learning about brands you don't know, and then you can find brands that you do know, and you go from there. Um, but when you are a mom with an infant, thrifting becomes a challenge. And that's really what I experienced. I mean, I can take her with me, but there's a time limit on how much time I can spend out. I have to rely on her temperament, her needs. And the reality with thrifting is, and the downside of thrifting is, you can go and spend a whole day in a thrift store or a whole day at the bins and come out with nothing. You can't control what you're going to find or what is there that day, even if that's the time
So
you've
true.
dedicated to source, right? So I have found my success lately has come from mystery boxes. Yes, I have to put money up front. Yes, there is a chance that it's not going to be profitable, or that I'm going to get a bunch of stuff I don't necessarily love or that isn't necessarily sought after. But the amount of time I save and the fact that there's guaranteed something here for me to list and sell has made up for that, 100%. And I also, same way when you learn your brands and stuff and you learn the art of thrifting, if you will, you can make more calculated decisions with mystery boxes. It's always going to be a mystery, but you can at least, you get your tried and true companies that you buy from, brands that you look for, types of things that you know are going to work for you. And that cycle has started all over again for me. So that's been really the biggest change. And as a result, because I have a larger volume coming in, I'm just, I guess, by default, selling more, sending more out because I do have more that I'm selling, that I'm listing and selling because I'm not spending the time having to go look for it. It's just coming here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, my closest thrift store is 45 minutes away. We live in South Dakota in a small town. But even those thrift stores, and then I do believe that if you're looking for things, you will find things, because I've heard some really popular sellers on different platforms saying if you're determined to go find that brand in the thrift store, you will find that brand. And I agree with that to a point, but when you live in a small town, in a territory where popular brands like these nice brands that we're looking for in boxes, you're not really going to typically see those in small town people selling those types of items and them showing up in thrift stores unless somebody moved from a big city like I did and came out here and sent that stuff over to the thrift store. Yes, that's likely to happen, but the chance of that compared to local people putting their stuff in the thrift stores, that's a lot more likely to happen. So your opportunity of finding those nice brands is a lot slimmer than mall brands.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I did have to resort to, it wasn't just the gas, but it's the time to go sourcing versus the time to list and actually be able to sell them more. Like you're saying, you're listing more on a daily basis. So I did resort to boxes. My issue has been the COG. I keep a really low COG just because that's my business model, to have things come in and go out quickly. My husband, I don't want to have to do a storage unit, and we do live in a house. I store in my house, but I only have so much space. And so I've had to be very, very mindful, and I've had to be resourceful. And I've actually got people shopping for me at bins now and sending items to me based on my criteria and their manifested boxes.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great option.
I've had to really tweak and change to keep my business model low so that my COG low, so that I can sell lower if I need to and offer, lower prices. And I purposely did that in the last 6 months because people are tight financially. Mm-hmm. They're just really tight, and not everybody can afford the $50, $60 pieces. So I wanted those options as well as the lower COG options to be able to sell lower too. So do you do that as well? So, do the higher piece items as well as the lower piece items?
Yeah, I will say we all love a good, like, high profit, high dollar sale, right? I mean, who doesn't? That's what we all want, right? But even still, even though I've dabbled into more like liquidation and paying up for stuff a little bit to get those higher sales, my true brands, like, that's still what I pick up. And if I do go thrifting, yeah, I'm still grabbing American Eagle jeans, Levi's jeans, stuff like that, the mall brands that are common, because that's what people want. And I still sell a lot of that stuff in addition to the other stuff. Because You're right, there's a buyer for one, there's a buyer for the other. They're always both going to be out there. So I do keep a good mix of both. I too am a sucker for a low cost of goods. I want to pay little and earn a lot. And I think we all do, right? So I definitely I'm not above buying those mall brands or things that are maybe like a $15, $20 profit if I know that they're going to sell quickly. And I have spent years and years learning which brands sell quickly for me. And so, if I see it and I see, okay, I'm going to pay, $3 for this, it's going to sell for 20, but I'm going to make a quick $15. I'm 100% going to take that and not leave it behind because, I can and
absolutely.
And it's good to have that mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are you planning to incorporate thrifting? I know as your daughter gets older, are you planning to just stick with online boxes, or are you planning to hopefully eventually incorporate piecing your own items at the thrift store? Tell us what your future goal is as she gets older.
Well, you know what? I feel like the thrifting has actually been harder as she gets older. Um, but I still will pop into a thrift store whenever I can. I don't have any plans of slowing down with the boxes, but like I said, I love thrifting. So if you say, hey, I will watch your daughter for a few hours if you want to go to the thrift store, I am not going to tell you no. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or if I happen to be somewhere and I can pop in for a few minutes, but I'm not in a position, nor do I think that I will find myself in that position in the foreseeable future to be able to depend on going thrifting.
Yeah.
It's sort of like if I can, then it's for fun,
Well,
and
plus, if you
bonus
have
if I
another
find some
baby
stuff.
too, if you have a second baby,
Then
that
it's
factors
just,
in too. Do
yeah,
you
for
have a
sure.
garage sale?
I have not, for the same reasons I don't thrift. I live in Metro Atlanta, so garage sales they have the potential to be really profitable. Same with estate sales. I did go to one estate sale before my daughter was born, and it was just a bunch of like really old, I think the people passed away, right? So it's very old stuff, very vintage, very like overpriced in my opinion, and it's just not I don't have the eye for that stuff,
Yeah.
right? If I'm doing clothing and stuff like that, um garage sales are fun. They're so
We
fun,
love
but
them.
but they're
Yeah.
not worth my time because I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what's profitable, and I don't really have the time or the resources to learn that right now.
Yeah.
I kind of just have to stick with the knowledge I already have at the moment. You know what I mean?
Sure. I totally agree. And we've done garage sales. Garage sales are huge around here. When spring hits, you can go to one territory and find 15, 20 garage sales within a few blocks. I mean, they're just back to back. And my husband and I absolutely love them, but I have found you will find a gold nugget for a really good price at one. I mean, I have found Madewell, I have found Anthropology, I found Free People, but it's far and in between. You'll find Lululemon, but the majority of it is like LuLaRoe,
Hmm.
Target brands. And I've gotten, when you first start out, you start out with that because you don't know any better. But I really don't seek that stuff out anymore. Even pallets, I just refuse, or online boxes. I just don't pursue that stuff anymore. But yeah, I think if you do that, you really have to be doing probably more hard goods. I have
Hmm.
found like, plus size pieces, which can do okay, but they have to be in good condition.
Yeah.
So let's kind of switch gears. You mentioned in a video a couple times ago that I watched where you're hoping to incorporate lives again. Speak to that on that a little bit, because I know you stepped away from it for a while.
Yeah, so I started on Whatnot. What was that? Early 2022, when back in the time where like everybody wanted to be a Whatnot seller, but they were only approving people like slowly. So everybody was like hanging out on the app waiting for their turn to get approved. And I got approved. I don't know if it's because I have a YouTube or because I had, more Instagram followers or whatever, but they approved me pretty quickly. So I had a really good run on Whatnot, but then when I got pregnant, live selling was so hard. I mean, that first trimester for me was no joke. The first show I tried to do after I found out I was pregnant, like after 15 minutes, I was completely winded. I couldn't stand there. I couldn't physically stand there. I was so fatigued. And so I had to put that on the back burner for a few months. And then when I came back, once I got to my second trimester, I was feeling better, and I was like, oh, I need to do my lives again. And that 4 months or whatever it was that I had left, it was like dead. The whole like just vibe had changed. Everybody was gone, and it's crazy how quickly things can change,
Yeah.
right? And so I did a couple shows that were 100% not worth my time. I had like no viewers. I made no money. And I'm like, you know what? I have to put this aside. And I know that since then, Poshmark started allowing people to do live shows, and Whatnot is still very much a thing if you have a following on there. But it's very, again, with the baby. right? It's very hard to commit to a consistent, like, I'm going to go live every day at this time or every week on this day at this time because it's so unpredictable. And I think that one thing that live sellers have, a lot of them have going for them is their consistency. And people know I can expect, Rachel to be live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. or whatever. And I just can't do that right now. So a part of me is sort of like trying to figure out, like, how do I incorporate lives back? Because when they were good, they were really good for me. I'll be honest, but I don't, it's sort of like on the back burner still to like figure it
Gotcha.
out because I'm doing such good business without doing lives that I don't feel like I necessarily, I think, let me say this. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, business is tanking because I'm doing live. Everybody that's doing better. I don't think that's true. I think that's a total myth. I think that people that are doing very well with lives and they put stuff like on sale or whatever, like, for sale in their Poshmarks or what business model and that works for them. That is not majority of people. So
Yeah.
you have an entire market of people out there that don't want to shop that way.
Yeah.
There's business for each type of person. Would I love doing live again? Yes, because it's fun, but it's not a, oh my goodness, like the whole thing has changed and my business is going to tank if I don't figure this out. I don't feel that way. You
No,
know
I
what I mean?
agree. And I think it's changed a lot and whatnot too because I've been in and out a couple times and I'm on there now and I'm planning to be consistent with it. I went through the thing that a lot of people go through that they just get frustrated with having to do the lives and not a lot of people showing up and you have to be patient with it. But it's changed a lot in there though too. You still have the people, a lot of people do pallet pulls where they do $1 stars because they probably paid like 50 cents for a truckload of pallets.
Yeah.
That's very popular, but there's also a lot of people now that are realizing that there are good shows where they do pallet pulls because they got 10,000 followers and they got, 150, 200 people in there. But there's also a lot of people who were doing boxes and pallet pulls and just, sourcing from boxes online where they're like me, they're starting their pieces out between like 8, 10, 15, $20, depending on the item, new with tags pre-owned. And they're still doing well because they're doubling their COG plus the fee. And that's their business model. And people are starting to understand that we're in here to make money. It is a business model as well as $1 starts if that's what works for you. And people are starting to respect that there are different forms of reselling, different forms of selling on different platforms. And so that is really starting to pick up. That's how I do it. I don't do $1 starts unless it's like jewelry or something, which I haven't done yet. But I'm noticing a lot of people who used to do like the really low stars because they thought they couldn't sell. They're now selling at a price point where they're making a profit and people are appreciating that and still buying the items. So
Oh,
it's really
good.
changed the dynamic a lot. I will not do a low start just to get rid of it and not make money. That's
Yeah.
not a good business model. It's not smart. So
Yeah.
I started out to double my money plus the fee. And I was in a live last night and she was saying that you'll hit the right customer. You just have to be consistent. So there are definitely, whether you're selling a Poshmark, eBay, Macari, lives, whatnot, Poshmark lives, you just have to figure out what niche works for you and build up your own community. But it has really changed a lot and people are really starting to respect the different business models. And one thing you have to believe too, and I think you'll agree with this, no matter what platform you sell on or what live platform you do, it's your business model. Speak to
Yeah.
that, would you?
Yeah, I agree. I was on Whatnot at some points just trying to get rid of things or starting things low, hoping that people would bid them up. And yeah, the truth is you have to state your asking price and be okay with it not selling if it doesn't sell. And yeah, you're right. The right buyers will come in if you have the time and the patience to keep yourself consistent like that. Then yes, 100%, you could make that your business model, but you have to figure out what works for you and stick to it and not start bending for like, I mean, you can experiment, right? And try and see, but yeah, you're really spinning your wheels for no reason if you're just giving stuff away for the sake of like wanting to do a live show or get rid of things or whatever. So, Yeah, I agree with you. I think staying true to your business model and what works for you is really important. And if your business model does not include lives, that's okay.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
it is
I
okay.
agree with you that
Yeah.
there was such a, I actually kind of on Instagram for a long time in Poshmark, even in communication on, chats and stuff, people were griping about lives and it got old. And there's been a lot of drama about lowball offers lately too. And some people have been speaking up about it and saying, you know what? Lowball offers are part of business, just like
Hmm.
people not paying are a part of business if you're on eBay. There are aspects of reselling you just deal with, and you figure out with your business model how to maintain that issue, and you move on. People are
Yeah.
people. Different people have different personalities. Different people are looking for steals. If you're willing to sell something cheap, then sell it cheap. If you're not, some people are okay with lowball offers because it's coming from their closet. They're not a reseller. They're okay with giving it away for $5 and making $2 on it. It really
Hmm.
just depends on your person, what you're looking for, because not everybody's a reseller on even Poshmark or eBay. Some people are just looking to flush stuff out. Some people are just selling kids' clothes and getting rid of their kids' clothes, hoping to make a couple bucks to reinvest in new kids' clothes. Everybody's system, everybody's situation is so different, and the drama about reselling on Instagram has been interesting.
Yeah, I really just kind of drown all that stuff out. If
Exactly.
I can give one piece of advice to a reseller, I would say this business is not personal. That person is not making you a lowball offer because they want to offend you. They want to hurt your feelings. They want to make you cranky and make you have a bad day. That is 100% not what's happening. Your items are worth what somebody is willing to pay for them. And if somebody is willing to pay you some lowball amount, then you have to make the decision to accept that or not and move on. It is not personal. And sometimes it's comical. I mean, sure, yeah, we
Right?
all get a lowball offer and we kind of chuckle a little bit like, yeah, right. But it's not like that person said, let me go offend this seller by sending this offer right now.
I know that's in the back of their mind, right?
Yeah, and so not only does these people on Instagram or the Facebook groups or whatever that complain, it's like not only did you let this upset you when it happened, but now you took the time to go on a social media platform and complain about it. And that is even more comical to me.
I know.
Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it is, I want to say it's a rookie mistake, but it's almost not because there's people
No.
that have been doing this a long time that
There are
still
people who
get that
claim they've
way.
been reselling for years and they sit there and talk about these terrible offers that they got. So talking about lowball offers, another debate is whether you should always counter or ignore the offer. What do you do?
There's no right or wrong, honestly. Sometimes I ignore it, sometimes I counter it. I don't, the only thing, I don't usually flat out decline an offer, unless it's like really ridiculous. Like my item's listed for $100 and you offer me five and I counter with, 90 and you offer me eight. Like I'm not, like that kind of back and forth. And even still, I usually don't decline those offers. I will just eventually just stop responding.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to decline, but whether you counter or ignore that's just personal preference.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
counter, just in case somebody's just trying to be a goofball. Because I have actually had people that if it's a $25 item and they send me like $10, but I would like at least 15 to double my COG and fees. So I'll counter in between. And I also sometimes counter up a couple dollars. That way, if they counter between their
Mhm.
$10 and like $18, I can get the $15 instead of them coming back at 11. See what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
And that's worked really well for me. They usually come back at like 15 and it's a done deal. If they
Yeah.
counter back at 10, then okay, they can't go above that. It's okay. That's just their situation. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal. I'll wait for the next buyer. Unless I know I can double my money and sell it. Or maybe it's just a piece that I'm trying to get rid of and I just want to get my cog back too. So yeah. So
So
yeah, what is your selling strategy?
so selling strategy, get everything listed as quickly as possible on as many platforms as possible, and then actively send and accept offers.
Yeah, so what are platforms like? Do you have specific platforms you sell certain things or you just put it out to everything?
Yeah, basically my big three, well, my big two really are Poshmark and eBay. Those are about neck and neck. Mercari too. Mercari is about 10 to 15% of my sales every month, but those three, I list everything pretty much because it's all clothing and all three of those platforms, like I can list the clothing that I have. I also list on Kidizen, but that's limited to women's and children's clothing. So that's mostly everything, or at least a good majority of what I sell. Um, but yeah, everything goes on all the platforms for the most part.
Yeah. So now you, I think I follow a few people, and some people have different like offer strategies. So I know
Mhm.
you send out, you do the like 10% closet clear out. You send out offers. So what different types of offer strategies do you do? And at what point do you relist it to hopefully get new fresh eyes?
Yeah, so basically I will list things, um, ideally what I want for the item plus like 10 to 20%. Um, and then I basically like everybody gets a 10% with discounted shipping on Poshmark, pretty much the same on eBay. Mercari, I don't send offers as much because you have to wait like 48 hours on things and their offer what you're allowed to do on there is a little different. But basically if I'm talking Poshmark and eBay, they get a 10% off at least pretty much whenever they like the item. I go through a couple times a day and send offers. Um, and then I do periodically do closet clear out. I do not have a method as to how often or what items or when. Like some days I just look at on Poshmark, I'll say like, oh, it's closet clear out day. I should lower the price on some items. But then what happens, I don't make sales that way. I'll be honest with you, because I send an offer to every time someone likes something. When I do closet clear out, it's just reducing the price by 10% when I've already sent those same people 10% offers. So I don't usually make a lot of sales that way, but it lowers the price because the next time somebody likes that item, then everybody gets another 10% off offer. You see what I'm saying? So
Sure.
it's now that person's getting a new offer for a lower price. Um, and then same, I'm sorry, I don't have some like tried and true science here. When do I delist and relist? When I feel like it. Honestly, like I say, okay, what do I have to do today? Okay, I haven't delisted and relisted in a while. Let me do some. Typically that happens when I'm between batches of inventory or if I don't have inventory, like I have time to list things, but I don't have anything to list, which these days doesn't happen a ton, right? Or like when I'm getting ready to do a 90-day update on a mystery box, I might go in and delist and relist. Like I know, okay, in 3 days I'm going to do this video. Let me see if I can make any last minute sales by delisting and relisting,
Yeah.
for the sake of the box. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do that, but um I just kind of do it whenever I get the chance. And then because I'm, using List Perfectly, I don't do it just on Poshmark. When I delist and relist, I delist it everywhere and I relist it everywhere. So it's really just when I have time to do that. Or sometimes I'll delist them all. And then I will come back on like as I have time and relist things, just to give
Yeah.
my platforms a bump, because
Yeah.
when you do list consistently, it kind of bumps the algorithm, I guess.
Do you list daily?
So that's another thing. I get that question all the time. And the answer is probably not. And I say probably not because I don't even know. Like, I refuse to hold myself to a daily amount of listings because I would drive myself crazy.
Hmm.
And I would try to fit a task into a box that it doesn't fit in, right? Because I do everything in batches and I do everything in between the cooperation of my child, right? So
Right.
if today is I'm going to photograph 50 pairs of jeans, but oh no, hold on, let me make sure I get some things listed. It doesn't work like that. Or today I'm going to batch 6 YouTube videos, but hold on, let me make sure I'm do listings. No, if I do listings, I can't do YouTube videos. So I list when there are listings available to list based on my process in my queue. And if there's days that there's nothing for me to list, maybe I'll go on and delist and relist if I have a few minutes, or maybe I won't.
Yeah.
Like today, I can tell you right now today is is draft day. I'll be drafting listings and I will be photographing new listings. There is 0.0 chance that I'm going to actually like do any actual listing. I mean, I might if I have a couple minutes in between tasks, I might, because they're all sitting in my list perfectly like ready to go out. So like maybe if I have a few minutes, but I don't hold myself to like I need to do 10 a day or I need to do 5 a day. I no. And I
Yeah.
don't honestly think that it makes that big of a difference. As long as you're listing consistently, I don't think it needs to be like X number of listings each day, to be honest.
Yeah, I do list daily, but that's just
Hmm.
me. I'm also I'm empty nester of six, so this is what I do.
Yeah.
So my situation's so very different from yours. And I think that's the wonderful thing about business models is, you're obviously making good sales, so what you're doing is working. So that's amazing. Do you have a favorite platform?
My favorite platform is the one that makes the most sales on, um, which actually for 2023 was Poshmark. eBay was a close second. Um, so I have to say Poshmark is my favorite platform because they're making me the most money. Is it my favorite platform because of like how much what you have to do? Not necessarily. If I was going that way, I would say Kidizen is my favorite platform.
Oh,
Kidizen
okay.
makes me the least money, but it is the easiest to list on and it is the most low maintenance. You list it and you forget about it. And if it sells, it sells. And the fees they take are the lowest. So that's why I list on there because it's so quick and then but unfortunately it's not the biggest platform. It's not the biggest money maker, but
Yeah.
it's definitely the most low maintenance, straightforward, cut to the chase. Here's a sale, here's your item type of platform. So
Wouldn't it be nice if they could take the easiness of Poshmark, the low fees of Kittison, and the popularity of eBay and have it all in one?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, I love Poshmark. It was my first platform. But my husband thinks the 20% fee is just ridiculous. It is high. But I still do very well on Poshmark. I also do well on eBay. I'm like you, it's kind of the same. I made a mistake of, I started out on Vindu, went to List Perfectly, and I'm back on Vindu now. But when I went from List Perfectly back to Vindu, a lot of things got kicked off. So I'm
Hmm.
actually relisting a lot of items, which honestly is okay.
Hmm.
Because it's just putting fresh new things. And it's also a nice way to not have to buy new inventory for a month. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of going through that, putting up new fresh stuff and then also flushing out stuff. If it's not listed anymore, it's either going to ThreadUp or my thrift store or a
Yeah.
garage sale this summer. So it's been an opportunity for me to just really clear out old stuff and bring in the newer stuff that I learned from. But yeah, that would be nice if they created a platform that had all those great aspects to it, but that's not going to happen. So,
Yeah. Right.
okay, speaking of sourcing, you do mainly online liquidation from a few major companies. Tell
Hmm.
us where you mainly source from. What is your favorite place to source from, and what is your favorite type of box that you've found that works really well for you?
Um, so really, again, I've experimented with a bunch of different boxes and all that, but really the two I order from the most are Helpsy Source and Boutique by the Box. They've been very tried and true. Are they always good? No, not no, but I've gotten enough good ones, and I can pick the ones I want that I think are going to be the most profitable. Um, I've done pretty well with being able to predict that. I think they're a little bit different. So Helpsy Source is mostly like secondhand boxes, secondhand stuff, lower cost per piece. But Boutique by the Box, higher cost of goods, but you're getting first quality merchandise, new with tags, a lot of times higher end brands, a lot of times things that are worth more money. So they're both good options for different reasons. My favorite type of box is the new with tag boxes. I've done really well with Helpsy Sources Everlane boxes. They have a partnership with Everlane. I don't know if it's overstock or customer returns or what. But those have been doing well for me. And then Boutique by the Box has those J. Crew Madewell boxes that they've been offering, those have done really well for me too. So I'm keeping new tag current styles in my closet that way. And it's generated a lot of traffic for me. So
Now, when you do new with tags items, especially when the cog is really high, because I've watched your videos, and some of those cogs are pretty high, like $20, $30. That's a pretty high cog. When you sell, I know you always like to double your money on your box, but with that high of a cog, are you typically making your money back plus like half the cog, or doubling all of it? Because I've watched your sold videos too, and some of your items, you make your cog back plus maybe like if it's a $20 cog, you make your $20 back, and sometimes it's only half of that cog, so you make maybe like $30 on a piece. So speak to that. Is it always double, or is it sometimes just double, one and a half?
it's not always double. It's not, sometimes it's more than double. Sometimes it's a break even. My goal is to double. And so when I decide like what price I'm going to list it at, what kind of offers I'm going to accept, when do I start reducing the price, my goal is to double, right? Do I hit that double mark always? No. I wish I could. Trust me. It wouldn't be a mystery if I could consistently hit that. But I started off higher for what I want to get in order to double. And then as time goes on, I start lowering. I start getting more generous with offers or accepting lower offers, because at the end of it, I want to double within that 90 days, and I do what I got to do to get there. But it doesn't always work out that way. You have to be flexible, though. People will order, like, because I share my affiliate code, and I say, if you want one of these, and people will order them, and then they'll come back to me and say, like, I didn't double my money. Well, you listed it, and then it's just sitting there, and you're not sending offers, and you're not, being flexible with your price, then yeah, it might just be sitting there. That's a big factor into it. So it's the goal, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, so true. So when you price, I know some people, when they price, obviously we adjust for offers. Do you adjust, some people adjust 10% up, 20% up, 30% up, so that they can do like 30 and 40% offers to flush out. What percentage do you adjust up for offers? And when you do discounts, you do 10% off. After 90 days, do you flush out? Do you clear out? So how do you do that? How much do you adjust up? And then how, after the 90 days, how do you clear it out?
So I don't really have a set, this is how much I adjust up. I look at comps, I look at similar solds, and I decide how much I'm likely going to get for the item, and I price accordingly. More of my calculation comes from adjusting down. It's not about how much I adjust up, it's how much I'm willing to come down. So I kind of just look at it that way. And then after 90 days, because I'm in a room here, I'm facing the wall behind me here, but you've seen my room in my videos if you watch my YouTube videos. It's a nice, decent sized room, but it still only holds so much, right? Yeah. So once I get to that 90-day mark, then yeah, I have some decisions to make of what do I do with this stuff. Sometimes, if it's gotten little interest, if it's just bad and like no one's liking this stuff, I'm not getting any offers, I will reduce the price probably more so than I would if I was still trying to hit that double mark, because at this point I've reported it out, I've taken my win or loss, and I'm moving on, right? So I'm going to probably lower the price. Typically after 6 months, though, is when it really starts to get like, okay, I have to make a decision of like, do I keep this in my inventory? It's taking up space. Or do I either donate it, send it to ThreadUp, take it to buy, sell, trade, like that kind of thing. And then some pieces I'll keep, and I'll say, okay, well, this is a beautiful summer dress. I got it in the middle of winter. Summer's coming around again, even though it's been 6 months. Do I keep this? Probably. Versus, okay, is it time to let this go? Right. And then typically like nothing stays over a year. If it's been here a year, it's got to go. I don't care what it is. And sometimes that's sad, because sometimes it is really nice stuff, but if it was a bad buy, it's a bad buy. And if it's a year, we're done. I'm breaking up with you.
It's easy to do that with the lower cog. How do you do that with your higher cog pieces? Because you can't really do buy, sell, trade with that. You wouldn't really make your money back.
Sometimes I don't make my money back.
Okay.
There's a lot of times I get rid of stuff at a loss, but I've made enough money on other things that at this point it's costing me more to have it here taking up space than it is to take the loss, let it go for a couple dollars, and make room for things that I need to store that are going to make me money. Yeah.
Wow. So are you looking to look at other companies besides Boutique by the Box and Helpsy? Are you pretty comfortable with those two, or are you looking at other companies to add to as well?
Well, again, it's one of those things that right now it's working, and I'm not in a position where I can take huge risks, right? Like I'm doing what's working. I would consider adding in other companies, but I don't know. I've got a lot on my hands. Like I am not short on inventory. I'm not really like, I get enough stuff from those two that I don't know. Like I don't necessarily need to right now. I think the video is going live today, or I don't know when you're going to show this video, but I recently ordered a ThreadUp box for the first time in a long time. So that was, and it was actually really good. So that one might come back in the mix if I can, the stuff from ThreadUp the cost is low enough I can take a loss if I get a bad DIY denim box. I'm out $60 or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But as far as like big liquidation companies, I don't know that I need to,
Yeah, you used to do a
Yeah.
lot of ThreadUp. I remember when I
Yeah.
first started following you, that was mainly your thing, was ThreadUp boxes.
For sure it was.
I know there's a lot of resellers who I know I've pulled away from ThreadUp. If I do boxes now, it's a men's box because they just do well for me and the cog is so low. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of resellers who are telling me that they're just staying away from ThreadUp right now because it's just been garbage and they're just not making their money.
Yeah, I the last couple years ago, I think it had been like a year since I had bought a ThreadUp box. I had like a few really, really bad ones in a row. And it was when they started like changing what they accept and all that, like the different brands they accept. And I felt like they were just sending like all this stuff that they didn't accept in those boxes. And that's when I kind of made the decision of like, I'm not doing this. This is a waste of my time and money. But I gave it a year, and the last one I got was really good actually. So I probably will try a few more just to see if like maybe that one was a fluke, because you're going to sometimes get a good one, even if they're generally bad.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say like, oh, they're good again just because I got one,
Right.
So I have to see how it goes. I'm not saying that it's going to become this like great source again, all of a sudden, but
Yeah.
it was interesting.
What is your favorite thing about reselling?
Well, at this point, number one, I like it. It's just fun. And I think you should love what you do and your work should be fun. But now in this point in my life, I'm home with my daughter. She's not in daycare. I'm here with her. I can work on stuff in between her naps, or before she wakes up, after she goes to bed, and she is here with me all day, and I don't have to put her in daycare.
Yeah.
Any traditional 9 to 5 corporate job working for someone else, I would have to put her in daycare, and now I don't. So that is the best part.
Now, if you continue to grow, do you guys have a plan to bring your husband home too, or is he pretty content with what he's doing?
My husband works for a company that he's pretty high up on the corporate ladder, if you will. And he holds the benefits for us. So for right now, it wouldn't make financial sense for him to not work. Also, he likes what he does too. What he does suits him very well. And he helps me with my business, mostly with the bookkeeping and stuff, but what I do is of no interest to him. Not the way it is to me. Like, this is my passion. It's not his passion. So I don't see him being a reseller with me. No. If anything, it would come to potentially me hiring people. If I needed extra hands in the business, it would be more like I'm hiring people. I'm outsourcing some of the work. It wouldn't be my husband coming home and doing this with me. I don't think.
Now, I know there's been a few people that I've seen that have hired people to do their listings. Did you hire somebody, or was that?
I've been working with a VA, but only for like the past month, maybe
That's right,
2
it was a VA. Yeah, to do your
Yeah.
listings.
Yeah, she helps me write the descriptions and stuff, but it's really just temporary. It was one of those situations where she was looking for work and I was like, okay, I'm in a position where I can outsource some of this. That would really help me. I can afford to pay somebody. It's within my profit business model that I have some flexibility to spend some money on that because time is money and paying somebody. So I have more time, especially during the holidays, worked out really nicely. So, but will I always have a VA? It's temporary. The VA that I'm using, was working another job and she injured herself, unfortunately. And so it's just her way of like making money while she can't do what she otherwise normally does. So when she's healthy and goes back to work, probably won't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So it really is temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with VA, it's probably similar to like when we're talking about business model, because some people wonder if you should do out of the country, if you should do a local person. I know out of the country it's cheaper than a local person, so that's a factor for some people financially. But also, depending on what you have them doing, some people have to be local if they're a VA. Like if they're like, if you're hiring somebody, well, VA would be doing your listings, but some people hire somebody because they actually enjoy doing the listings. Some
Yeah.
people who are resellers. I'm getting to the point, I do enjoy doing lives because I'm getting to the point where I like doing listings, but not as much as I used to. So doing lives is very appealing to me because I can sell more. But I think also some people, when they hire people, they don't want to do the shipping. My husband's already told me that when I get big enough and I don't have time to do the shipping, my husband and I used to own a shipping company in Washington. So he used to ship 8 hours a day. He's like, babe, when you're ready and you don't have time for shipping, I'll do that for you. So I just have to do the
Good.
lives and he does the shipping. So when it comes to VA, I think or hiring somebody, it depends on what you want to hire them for, if that's some people's questions, whether
Yeah.
it's listing. But if you're doing photographs, you kind of have to be there in person to do somebody's photographs.
Right. Well, that's exactly like, I don't mind doing my listings, but it's the easiest thing to outsource, right? Because you can hire somebody that's anywhere. So it was the easiest thing to outsource. It's not my least favorite thing to do. That's not why I outsourced that piece of it. It's just, that's the easiest to
Yeah.
outsource. But hey, Sandra, and I know you're going to edit this, but my baby's waking up. So I have
Yeah, no
to,
problem.
yeah, I just want to let you know, like, I don't
Yeah,
want to
no,
have to
no,
like,
you're
run
good.
out of
I
here.
just had two more questions I wanted to ask you, and I know
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are going to
go
want to
ahead.
know this. And I did want to try to keep it to around an hour. What
Perfect.
is the best advice somebody has given you as a reseller?
Um, Honestly, the best advice, and this is going to sound silly, but the best advice is don't follow people's advice. Honestly. And somebody told me that, and you want to learn from others, but what works for one person is not going to work for the next person.
Yes.
And so many things factor in, right? Capacity, time capacity, storage capacity, sourcing ability, what you have available to you, right? And so I can tell you, oh yeah, I find all these great things at Goodwill, but if you don't have a thrift store that you can find great things at, that doesn't apply to you, doesn't help you, right? So you can't try to fit in
Like
my
my
world if
situation.
it's, yeah, right, exactly. Or like, I make so much money selling mystery boxes. Okay, well, yeah, if you can't afford to pay $400 for one mystery box, not knowing if you're going to make money, then that doesn't work for you. And I can tell you what works for me, but that doesn't mean like, oh, I should, just because it's working for her, that I know it's going to work for me. And
Right.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people get caught up on, oh, so-and-so is doing this. So, oh, so-and-so is starting their live shows at $1. So they're making all this money. I should go buy all this stuff and do the same thing. No,
Right?
you know
And
what
I
I
think
mean?
that was a
So
big mistake for a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. Like you have to really find what works for you and learn from what other people are doing, but don't necessarily say, I'm going to take their advice because it's working for
Yeah.
them.
And I think you'd probably agree with this. Comparing yourself to other people and, oh, well, like if somebody bought this box, just because somebody bought a box and it worked well for them, um, you just got to stop comparing yourself to people. I mean, it's just, I think so many people make so many mistakes in reselling and it gets them in trouble,
Yeah.
and I just, it's something I've had to be mindful of and learn from. And I think that is a huge aspect. You cannot compare yourself to other people, whether it's lives, reselling, boxes, sourcing. Your business has to be your business, and you have to not worry about what other people think of how you resell. They're not paying your bills. Your reselling
Yep.
business pays your bills. And if something is working for you, who cares what other people think?
Exactly.
And you have to quit judging people because their reselling business model worked for them, but it doesn't work for you.
I
You know,
agree.
if lives work for you, don't judge people because they're doing lives. If you sell on Mercari or eBay, some people can't stand eBay. You know, I mean, it just goes for anything. Stop judging people and just resell and make money for your families, right?
Yeah, for
So what's the
sure.
best advice you could give somebody outside of obviously not following what other people are saying? What is a good piece of advice that you would say for somebody, especially if they're new?
You know what? Start with what you can source. If you have a whole closet full of stuff you're not wearing, start there. If your local thrift store has a dollar day, start there. If you have access to the bins, start there, right? Don't worry about, like I said, kind of don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Sell what you can source and then go from there.
Yeah,
Don't try to reach and figure out what other people are doing and try to fit in their bubble. Worry about you.
great.
And I think that really does start with sourcing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So where can everybody find you if they want to follow you, see your videos?
Sure. I'm on Instagram as Oh Yeah Rachie and also on YouTube as Oh Yeah Rachie. Those are really the two main platforms that I am on right now. Instagram, I'm a little wishy-washy. I love the short form content aspect of Instagram and keeping in touch with people on Instagram, but I'm a lot more consistent on YouTube. So that's where you'll find me doing all of my unboxing videos, and I do a like a weekly, well, it's been bi-weekly, like top sales, and I always do my 90-day updates on the boxes I open up. So
Yeah.
that's where
And
you can
may I
find
say,
me.
I appreciate when people do sales. I am actually follow another gal. She's pretty popular on YouTube. And this has been a factor for me as people talk about how, you know, they'll open a box or they'll go sourcing and say, oh yeah, I'll sell this for this amount. But then you never see them actually what it truly sells
Yeah.
for. Resellers want to see where you're sourcing, want to see where you're getting in boxes. But the biggest factor is, did it actually sell and what did it sell for?
I'll tell you what, one thing, kind of a pet peeve of mine, and again, like this is a personal preference,
Sure,
but
absolutely.
if I'm choosing what kind of content I'm going to consume on YouTube, there are some sellers that won't share their cost of goods. Like, oh, I sold this for $40. Well, how much did you pay for it? Well, that doesn't matter. Well, absolutely that matters.
Yeah.
If you paid $30 for it, because if I'm trying to learn from you, I need to know how much you paid for that. Because if you were able to find it for $2 and you sold it for 40, 100%, great sale. If you spent 30 on it and you sold it for 40, that's not a good sale. That's not worth my time. So that's why I try to be as transparent as possible with what the item actually cost, because it, yeah, some resellers just won't share that information, and that is a very important piece of
Yeah.
information
The
when you're
two
trying
most
to teach
important
others.
numbers in reselling is your COG and what it sold for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, girl. You're such a busy mama and you're killing out there and where you've come from and what you're doing with the boxes and it's working so well for you and I'm so excited for you. I'm excited to see how much you grow this next year. And we're all hoping for a bigger, I think we're all hoping for a better year this year. This last summer was hard for a lot of people. And I think even Christmas season was hard for a lot of people this year because the economy is just crazy right now. And people are having a hard time buying stuff. But you know what? With that in mind, this is such a great time to be a reseller because we're offering them a great product at a great price. They don't have to
Yeah.
go somewhere. It comes straight to the door. They're getting it better than they can at the mall. And I just think what we're doing is a huge blessing to a lot of people. And reseller to reseller, we're going to kick butt this year.
Yes, we are. Yes, we're on it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rachel. Bless you. And I'm looking so forward to talking to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Sandra, so much. Take care.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I really enjoy listening to other resellers, their stories, how they got started. Some people have the most amazing stories, and some people have some really intense stories. Some people just have really calm stories. So it's going to be a lot of fun to listen to just the different diversity as resellers that we all have. I do have a list of names that I'm reaching out to. I just followed up on it with another gal who said she wanted to do one. If you have a reseller you want me to do an interview with, please, please, please put their name down below. I will reach out to them and see if they want to do an interview, and I will let you know how that goes. And we're just going to keep doing this. My goal is hopefully to do one every other week. And then another video that I want to be doing for you guys is day in the life as a reseller from me, as well as our sold videos and all the other great content we're doing. So again, if you have a reseller you want me to do an interview with, put their name down below in the comments. And guys, I'll see what I can do to get them on here for an interview too. Thank you so much everybody for being here and enjoying this interview. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part of this interview was, what you learned, what surprised you, what didn't. And guys, as always, be productive. We will see you next time.